Chapter 40, in which our hero breaks for canola. Not long after we'd made our service station video, Garland had me exit the motorway. We were getting close to Cannes, and since that's where Martin Blair thought we were heading, Garland thought it best to take back roads the rest of the way to Saint-Lô. And though Parker's navigational abilities hadn't improved much since leaving Paris, we'd made some progress. Until, that is, she grabbed my wrist, and I stomped the brakes, and Ramey's hatchback performed a terrifying, if not X Games worthy 360, before sliding to a stop on a lonely country road 10 miles northeast of Cannes. "What the hell?" I shouted, and turned around to check on Garland, who'd tumbled hard into the floorboard. "Look," Parker said. "Isn't that the most beautiful thing you've ever seen?" On the left side of the road, as far as the eye could see, was a waist-deep field of yellow flowers. It was picturesque, but we'd passed fields like this one for the last hour, so I wasn't sure exactly why Parker had nearly killed us to stop and see this particular one. "Those are canola flowers," Garland said, pulling himself up slowly. "And they smell like old socks dipped in mustard." By now, Parker had her window down and said, "I think they smell lovely." Then she slapped me on the knee and said, "Come on." She was out the door before I could stop her. I turned back to Garland, and he gave me a shrug, so I climbed out of the car and followed Parker into the field of flowers. She was 20 yards ahead of me, skipping and running a hand across the tops of the flowers. It's a moment I still dream about. Only in my dreams, she never turns around. She just keeps skipping farther into the field. But that day, she stopped and spun around and waited for me to catch up. "What do you think about this, Edwin Green?" I started to say, but never came up with anything. "Such a wordsmith," she teased, and skipped away again. "Shouldn't we be getting back on the road?" I asked, chasing after her. "We're stopping to smell the flowers, Edwin Green. The literal flowers." She stopped and I caught her again and said, "Roses. You're supposed to stop and smell the roses, not mustard sock flowers. No one stops to smell mustard sock flowers." "There's no accounting for taste," she said, then grabbed me by both hands and started spinning us. We spun faster and faster until her red hair and the yellow flowers and the blue sky blurred into a rainbow that made no guarantee God wouldn't flood the earth again, but bewitched me to the point I wouldn't mind if he did. I wanted to stand there and spin with her forever, but after a few moments I realized more spinning would soon lead to vomiting, and I said so. Parker laughed, and I laughed. Then we fell, me on the ground and her on top of me, and we laid there and laughed and tried to catch our breath. "What would you do without me, Edwin Green?" "I'd have us in Saint-Lô already," I said. She pretended to look at a watch she wasn't wearing and said, "No, you'd be in algebra, and you've got to admit, this is way better than algebra." I started to say, but again never came up with anything. This time because my brain was allocating all its resources toward convincing me I should kiss Parker that very instant. Well, not all its resources. There was a tiny voice in my head trying to remind me why I'd actually traveled to France in the first place. But the "kiss Parker now, you fool" part of my brain soon bludgeoned that tiny voice with a stale baguette, and I counted down from 5 in my head to get my courage up. But then a French policeman shouted, "Levez-vous!" and sort of killed the mood.